Welcome to Coleman Report Live. I'm Bob Coleman. We're talking Main Street and the small business lenders who help it grow. Chris Hearn, CEO, founder of Fountain, is named among the country's top 100 most active SBA lenders. What number are you?
Oh, I have no idea. Somewhere in the top 100, I guess.
Very good. Got a lot to go over. Let's go to the polls. Number one, what do you find, all of these are concerns, but does one stand out when you're talking to your small business borrowers? Hiring labor, would you, 56%? Chris, would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think the two top ones here are exactly what I would have guessed, supply chain and labor.
Yeah, inflation's an unknown.
Right.
A lot of you didn't live through the inflation. Hopefully we're not going to live through the inflation of the 80s, 70s, and 80s. And access to capital, I'm glad to see that slow. And interesting, taxes regulation, they're not, they're going with the flow.
Well, I think that'll become more top of mind here soon.
Yes.
So, take this in another month from now, you might be surprised at taxes and regulations.
Yeah, I'm not going to argue with that. What percentage of small business owners are increasing compensation to attract qualified employees? So I guess this, take whatever you want, your portfolio, applicants, just take some sort of bucket and apply it to that. Yep, 50%, 40%. That's interesting. 1/3 say, 23% say 1/3. But again, I think those numbers are indicative. They're fair numbers based on what's happening out there in the economy, Chris.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, if you look at that, 33 to 50%, that's 75% overall are increasing. So,
which is good and bad. I'm all for employees getting more, as long as it doesn't do away with the fundamentals, which means our entrepreneurs need to be smarter and smarter each year. All right, number 3, do you participate in the Export Working Capital Program? Yes, 12, no, 88. We're going to have an expert on the Working Capital Program later on sometime in the next couple of weeks. I strongly encourage you to take a look at that program after the first of the year, especially when guaranteed fees get adjusted. This program remains at 90%. It's a great program. You have a lot of flexibility of what you can do. There are approximately 9 centers throughout the country that you can work with, and we want to shed some light on that. Okay, Chris, what's going on with fee waivers?
It's a great question, Bob.
All I know is I got a headache. We published something from Citrus Heights, and then on Friday, an SBA head office said, "Coleman, you're wrong." We go, well, here's the email we got now. So where are we?
It's a good question. I'm not sure I know how to quite answer that.
Fair enough.
We saw stuff on Friday as well. We reached out to 7A answers, or 7A questions, I should say, and we didn't quite get the clarifying answer that we were hoping for. We know the 11-12 debt relief payments are gone.
Right.
I'm pretty sure the 90% guarantees are still there and will last.
I got an email this morning, and I apologize. Who sent that to me? I don't have it handy. I got an email this morning said they had one approved, no problem, 90% guarantee.
Yeah. So I think we're okay on that. I don't know where we're at on the fee waivers. And so we reached out, we tried to get some clarity. We don't really have the clarity we were seeking just yet. Maybe some other folks who are watching this can reach out, whether the district office or the 7A questions. And I suppose if enough of us ask for clarification, perhaps the agency will release something shortly. I mean, it's only relevant for the next couple of days anyway, but it would be nice to know exactly what's going on. I have a feeling maybe Nagel might have been a little too hasty to say that all this was gone for whatever reason, but I don't know. We just need to get a little more clarity from the agency.
Well, I'm willing to give everyone a pass here because the problem is there's differing memos on the same subject from SBA. That's
Right.
that's
And it's not like
we're
SB.
gonna throw SBA under the bus. How's that?
No. Let's not do that. It's not like they're. It's not like they're
No, it's
not with anything to do.
It's not even incompetence. It's just 'cause some person said, "Hey, I think we're running out of money. That's why I'm running the substitute." So,
Yeah.
let's recap the fees starting October 1st. Joseph, do you have that chart?
1 second. I'll put it up.
Okay, pull it up. Well, let's jump to, while he's doing that, let's jump to, Joseph's going to talk about that. Let's jump to inflation expectations. And give me a definition, Chris, as why inflation's so bad. We know inflation is bad, but why is it bad? Give me an economics 101.
Well, I mean, inflation's bad because it eats away your purchasing power, basically. So, if something costs $1 today and inflation goes up, even at the, sort of the 2.5% to 3% target, I think that the Fed's got, I mean, you've got a substantial increase. You've got, you're looking at, extreme case, if it was 10% a year, you'd have a doubling of prices in less than 4 years. Now obviously that's extreme, but you can kind of work backwards from there. Even if we have 3% increases for a few years, you're basically you're gonna end up doubling the cost of things much faster. And we kind of lived through a period of deflation,
Right.
because of all the technological improvements over the last 20, 30 years. Some economists are arguing that has slowed down considerably. I guess we'll have to wait and see. But, the costs of, food and vehicles and, just a variety of different things has been gas has all been going up pretty substantially over the last 4 or 5 months. And it affects the working class much more than others, obviously. You're having to spend more of what you make on products and services, which means you've got less at the end of the day to save. So it can have a pretty big impact on things.
Yeah. And if that entrepreneur is not on top of it, their supply chain increases, their cost increase, their employees want more money if they even show up. And
it's just supply demand. I mean, if you don't have enough employees, with the question earlier, labor is an issue. If you have to pay more for the labor, fine, but you know what? As a business owner, you're probably gonna make it up somewhere else. So it probably means you're increasing your prices. Maybe it means you're decreasing the quality of what you do. You may be cutting back in other areas. Maybe you're going to cut back on your marketing, or maybe you're going to cut back on the benefits that you offer your employees. I mean, all these things have consequences, and that's why, if you let inflation just run uncontrollably, it causes major problems.
I also disagree with the school of thought that says if you have a loan portfolio tied to prime, you are, quote, safe. You're not going to be at the mercy of rising interest rates. My counter to that is, you may be okay, but that small business borrower is not, and they may default, then you're going to charge off the loan. So just because you have a variable rate means that you're protected.
Well, you're protected against rate risk per se. If you have your spread over a floating index, sure, you have rate risk protection, but as opposed to if you fix your rates. But like you said, Bob, you don't have inflation is going to mean your borrower is stressed much more, and that means they could potentially default or go out of business.
Well, hopefully the adults in the room aren't playing politics and they understand the market. They certainly, with the data over the last 50 years, they're tracking all these economic cycles. There was the great quote by the Fed chair. I don't have that at hand, but he said, "Hey, we've never had a recovery come out of a recession this fast."
Right.
Which is good news. Who wants to talk about the House Committee? Are you up to speed on that, Chris, or we let Joseph jump in?
No, I kind of know what's going on, but what's your what do you want to talk about in that?
Well, we're going to bring up the slide.
Okay.
I want to talk about the budget, and I want to talk about what small business is going to end up with.
So if it passes, I mean, probably the thing of most interest to your audience, Bob, is going to be this idea of a direct loan program from SBA. I think I talked a little bit about it last week. I think you were out, but the problem is nobody really knows many details other than it's going to be over 10 years. It's going to be about $4.5 billion, which would suggest 450 million a year. But then there's some verbiage about this. We're not really sure what that means or what's going to be the threshold to determine who's a partner, who's not a partner. I find this whole thing kind of interesting because, of course, this is going to be a record-breaking year for 7A. So, the traditional argument that there hasn't been enough access to capital, therefore the agency needs to do direct lending, I think that's a bit of a specious argument. But I don't know. We got to wait and see what this means. I don't know that anybody knows.
That's the takeaway is there's a lot of talks. They're floating a lot of ideas. Obviously, one's the IRA one where you can no longer use your IRA for equity injection for a loan, and
which that would be cataclysmic. I mean, there's
you didn't know about that?
No, but I'm just saying that there's a lot of business owners who they're not going to be able to access SBA funding because that's.
Well, I guess Peter, I can never pronounce his name. Theo from Silicon Valley has $5 billion in his IRA.
Right.
And that was not the intent. So
no, that's like saying just because we've got a tax code that stretches from here to the moon, you shouldn't take advantage of the tax advantages that are there. I mean, I always struggle with that. You shouldn't shame somebody for using the laws that are on the books. And he's done that. Maybe it wasn't the intent. Maybe they may curtail some of it. But what I'd hate to see them do is prevent business owners from using a self-directed IRA, 401k to be able to provide equity.
They have a couple 100,000 in that IRA. They have it in Fortune 500 stocks.
Sure.
Fine. That's where. But now I'm retired and I want to start a Subway sandwich shop.
Right.
I should have every right to invest in that as I do General Motors. So I think. The audience is going to be, I'm sure they're the way we are. Well, we'll know more about this, Chris. Do we know when this is? I read something that this is supposed to be voted on in the House this week.
Well, it's supposed to happen this week, but I think the speaker has now decided maybe she'll take the infrastructure bill first instead of the reconciliation, which I think she was trying to do the reverse, and that's going to cause some problems on the far left side of their party, and I just don't know. It's going to be a crazy week in Washington.
Yeah. If you love watching politics, put on C-SPAN. A lot of interest.
That's right.
Let's see. That's all I got. Chris, you got anything else?
No, not really. Not really. It's going to be an exciting week. You got the debt ceiling. You got these two massive pieces of legislation.
They're not going to shut down the government, are they?
I don't think they will, but I've said that before, and they shut it down.
Wow, look at that! I asked the question, and there it is. Way to go, Joe. Joe's is on top of it today.
That was good. Yeah.
The answer is yes. They're not going to shut down the government.
Well, they might shut it down, but I don't think it'll be shut down for long.
Okay.
So
I'm going to put all my eggs in one basket and say they're not shutting it down.
I hope you're right. It always just causes problems.
I have known to be wrong in the past, so take what I say with a grain of thought. Question: has anyone had a 7A loan due to bank logistics will not have final bank approval before September 30th? However, the loan was underwritten based on the CARES Act, waive fee 90%. What's the answer, Chris?
Well, it's a little bit of a gray area. In fact, the agency even sent something out a few weeks ago that said, don't pull a PLP number, assuming you have that designation, without doing a pretty reasonable level of underwriting. Meaning, you shouldn't be pulling PLP numbers on deals that ultimately you're then going to have to cancel because your loan committee said, no, we don't want to do this deal after all. So you're supposed to be approving it internally before you get the PLP number, or at least underwriting it pretty substantially before you do that. I'm sure there were people that are going to get the number, with very little information, and that's unfortunate. And I don't know, maybe the agency will come down on them, but you got to be careful about this sort of thing. I understand.
I agree with Chris 100%. It can be done.
Right.
You can go in and get a PLP number immediately. I would be leery about doing that. And I think what I would do is I would say, gang, we are not going to force SBA to change their rules. Let's change our rules one time to get this thing approved. And that's a special emergency Zoom call. Let's do it. But that's the way I would go about it.
Yeah, I mean, because it's only
solve the big logistical problem.
Yeah, but you only got 3 days to do this, so you're going to have to hurry. But the reality is everybody's known of this deadline for months, and hopefully most lenders have been encouraging their applicants to get them what they need so they can actually do this and lock in the fee waivers, because that's the piece that the borrowers care about. Obviously, lenders care about the guarantee fee, but yeah, you just need to be careful. You got to be able to justify what you did in case SBA ever comes back to you and says, well, how come you, looks to me like you had 3 pieces of documentation and yet you pulled the PLP number. And then you canceled it. What's going on? What happened here? It's not going to be like during PPP where, it was whoever got into E-Tran first and got their approvals. This is, and you can always reverse it, all these different things. I think SBA is going to go back to their usual amount of scrutiny. If information, you cancel it, they're going to wonder why you cancel it.
I think being prudent is, you can do it. I wouldn't do it. And I would force the bank credit committee to meet. Say, hey, it's going to save the borrower X amount of dollars, which it would. It's significant. Plus, the lender will make more money on the deal with an adverse guarantee. So
they will, although that should not be your determining factor. Or you'll also.
I didn't say anything. I was speaking. I was thinking out loud. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Don't get into hot water with SBA.
As we call it here, we get called into the principal's office when we get these emails.
Right.
Okay. Training. We're starting our fall training next week. Closing. Lance's award-winning closing training is doing great. Underwriting, and we're going to dust off servicing and PDK and liquidation and all that stuff. Chris, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
You're doing a good job. Good to see you, my friend. And thank you all for joining us today for Coleman Report Live and supporting America's Main Street, one entrepreneur at a time.